So when you look around right now, CHIPS, the Inflation Reduction Act, all these huge clean energy projects, and just the explosion in data centers, you see this one massive, like, immediate problem pop up again and again. We just don't have enough skilled workers ready for these high-tech jobs. The demand, it's huge, and it's growing way faster than we can train people. We know you're looking for efficient ways to get your head around complex stuff, so today we're diving into what could be a national solution for this exact crisis.
Yeah, it's fascinating because the usual ways of doing things, traditional grants, year-by-year competitions, they're just too slow, too incremental for this kind of speed. So what we're digging into is this really innovative idea called the SkillBuild SPV, that special purpose vehicle. It's basically a structure set up to treat workforce training capacity just like physical infrastructure.
Like building a bridge, you mean?
Yeah.
Or a power plant.
Exactly, making it financeable. The whole point is to create a bankable pathway so regions can quickly scale up high-tech training, especially using advanced tech like XR, augmented, and virtual reality.
Okay, let's unpack that. Our mission today is figuring out how this special funding setup gets around the slowness and uncertainty of those old grant-funded pilots. And critically, how does it let regions quickly build up things like AI and XR training without dumping crushing new debt onto community colleges or tech schools? That really seems like the core trick here, doesn't it? Let's start with the urgency factor. Our sources are really clear. These multi-billion-dollar federal projects, clean energy, data centers, semiconductor plants, they're literally being held back right now, constrained by a shortage of job-ready technicians. That's the quote. So the skills gap isn't just like an inconvenience. It's a genuine roadblock to getting these national projects done. And the traditional fixes, slow approvals, grant cycles, they just can't close this gap fast enough or big enough.
Exactly right. And that's the big mental shift here. The SkillBuild SPV treats that needed training capacity like infrastructure. So lenders and investors, they can underwrite it based on solid contracts, actual collateral, instead of just relying on, what the sources call institutional goodwill. Look, if you're building a, say, $50 billion chip plant, you need a guarantee that your workforce pipeline is going to scale just as fast. This kind of structure seems to be the only way to take these huge federal mandates, WIOA, CHIPS, IRA requirements, and turn them into real, verifiable, time-certain, auditable training capacity.
Okay, so what does this structure actually pay for up front? Because it sounds like more than just hiring a few teachers for a semester.
Oh, much more. It's ring-fenced financing. It funds the entire package, the whole stack, they call it. We've all heard stories, right? A big grant buys amazing equipment.
Yeah, and then it sits in a closet because there's no money for maintenance or software updates.
Precisely. This SPV avoids that. It funds everything. The actual XR labs, the devices, the virtual campus licenses, huge bundles of immersive training content. Also, crucial mobile training labs to reach rural or underserved areas. And really importantly, the trainer program, so people actually know how to use the tech effectively. It's meant to be a complete turnkey solution. Now, let's get into the mechanism itself, the SPV, the special purpose vehicle. From the public sector side, think of it as a regional entity that's legally separate, ring-fenced from the colleges involved. It pulls together multiple schools, multiple employers, all under one management structure, one reporting system. But here's the absolute key point. The SPV is the borrower, not the individual college.
Okay. So that's how they get the no new college debt part.
Exactly. That immediately solves a huge barrier for public institutions, their debt capacity limits.
But hang on, it feels like you're just moving the risk around, not getting rid of it. The SPV still has debt. What if it can't generate enough revenue? Does the college just get stuck with a bunch of defaulted VR headsets?
That's a fair point, a critical question. The answer lies in, two main things. First is the repayment design. It's built to be strong. They don't rely on just one funding stream that could dry up. Repayment comes from several different contract-based sources. First off, you've got employer take-or-pay agreements for training seats.
Take-or-pay. So the employer pays for the training slot whether they fill it or not.
Pretty much. It's a guaranteed purchase commitment that provides a baseline revenue stream right from the start.
Okay. Guaranteed income. Smart. What are the other streams feeding into this?
Well, there are public funds, but routed differently. You have WIOA, that's the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act funds coming through individual training accounts, or ITAs. Those are channeled via the ETPL programs, the eligible training provider list. Then a third stream is outcomes-based payments, so the STV gets paid when people actually get placed in jobs and stay there. And finally, targeted public grants can also flow in, often acting as what they call first loss capital, like a safety cushion.
Relying on WIOA ITAs is interesting. Those funding streams are known for being subject to political budget fights, aren't they?
Hmm.
Doesn't putting those into the mix just reintroduce the exact risks they're trying to avoid?
That's precisely why the controls have to be so robust. Diversification helps, yes, but the real security blanket comes from the financial plumbing, you could say. They use something called a trustee-managed waterfall. What that means is all the money coming in, employer payments, ITAs, outcomes money, it all flows first into controlled bank accounts. Debt payments get paid out first, absolutely prioritized.
Ah, so the lenders are first in line, always.
Right. It ensures repayment isn't dependent on the college's other budget priorities or, sudden spending needs. That's crucial for lenders. After debt service, reserves get funded like the DSRA, the Debt Service Reserve Account, only after all that is operating money released, and even then under strict rules or covenants.
Okay, it sounds like something designed by finance people, which I guess it is. You mentioned a 5-tier security package to protect the lenders. Can you give us the quick version? Which couple of tiers are most important for making sure the training actually keeps going no matter what happens with the money management?
Good question. Yes, the 5 tiers protect the investment overall. But for continuity of the actual training, I'd say the 2 most critical are the hard assets and the contracts. The security package covers the contracted revenues, obviously, but it also includes the physical stuff, the XR labs, the licenses, which are held in escrow. And here's where it gets really interesting for continuity. The lenders literally have a claim, a security interest in that physical and digital infrastructure.
Meaning?
Meaning if the operator, whether it's the college partner or the SPV management, starts underperforming, the lenders can step in.
Ah, lender step-in rights. That sounds like the answer to the continuity problem. That's often the Achilles heel of grant programs, right? One partner drops out, the whole thing collapses.
Yeah. Exactly. This is designed as the ultimate continuity clause, the lender step-in rights. If a key partner falters or the SPV operator isn't delivering, the lenders have the right to replace the operator. They can take over the employer contracts. They control the labs, the licenses. The goal is to ensure the training continues. The workforce pipeline stays open. Outcomes are still achieved, even if there's some institutional messiness happening.
Okay, so we've talked about securing the money, securing the operation. What about securing the results? How does this system make sure the people coming out are actually ready for the job? Moving beyond just, say, multiple choice tests that might not prove much.
Right. They address that with something called the integrity suite. It's about replacing those sometimes vulnerable written tests with performance-based assessments, real-world actions. Things like XR procedures, where you have to do the task correctly in VR. Decision simulations, oral defenses, where you explain your actions. Performance telemetry that tracks what you actually did. It's evidence that accreditors and auditors can actually rely on.
And presumably, this links to industry standards.
Oh, absolutely. Their compliance checklists are built to align directly with key industry standards. Things like NCCER for construction, NIMS for machining. Ensuring the credential means something immediately on a job site.
So for the public funders, the outcomes are much more concrete than just we trained X people. What specific KPIs, key performance indicators, are they tracking to prove this investment works?
Yeah, they track very specific granular KPIs. For the learner, it's about how fast do they reach competency? What are the pass rates, the retention rates in the program? Critically, are they placed in a relevant job within 90 days? Do they stay employed for 12 months? And is there a measurable increase in their wages? And then for the finance side, they track the DSCR, the debt service coverage ratio. That's just a measure of the SPV's financial health, its ability to cover its loan payments from its income.
Let's make this real for a second. You mentioned Northern Virginia earlier, the huge data center hub. How does the model look there?
Right, the illustrative Novia case. There you've got major employer contracts, say from AWS and Dominion Energy, projected to drive something like 1,000 training seats a year. That generates significant baseline revenue. Then that's topped up with WIOA, ITAs, maybe some outcomes, contract payments. That mix provides real resilience, as they put it. If one stream falters, maybe an employer pulls back slightly or a grant program gets paused, the whole operation doesn't just collapse, it's built to withstand shocks.
Connecting this back to the bigger picture, you mentioned mobile labs earlier. This model seems to have an eye on equity and reaching places outside major cities, too.
Definitely. Because the training platform is designed to be mobile first, often offline capable, and uses these mobile XR labs. You can take the training to underserved communities. It's not just reliant on people being able to travel to a central campus. This lines up really well with modern ESG goals, environmental social governance, and also Community Reinvestment Act requirements that often come with these big infrastructure projects.
What really jumps out at me, though, is the speed. Government programs often work in years. Infrastructure projects need workers in months. The source talks about an aggressive 90-day clock speed plan. How fast can this really get going, and what's the main bureaucratic hurdle they seem to bypass?
Yeah, the timeline is kind of stunningly fast. It works because they're basically pre-packaging the whole solution, the finance, the tech, the initial content. So days 0 to 15, that's about locking in commitment, getting letters of intent from employers, getting the basic virtual campus tech switched on, setting draft outcome goals with the local workforce board. What they're bypassing is that standard, often multi-year process of curriculum design committees, equipment procurement RFPs.
And they're actually teaching within 3 months. That seems
Yeah.
incredibly fast for financing and setup.
That's the plan. By days 46 to 90, the SPV financing closes, bringing in the senior debt, maybe some catalytic or first loss funding. Devices, mobile labs are procured. Train the trainer starts. And the first cohorts of students begin training. Public dashboards showing those KPIs we talked about, they go live almost immediately. The biggest hurdle, they leapfrog. It's often the college's own internal debt approval process and the slow public procurement rules, because the SPV handles the borrowing and the buying centrally.
And the places they're starting reflect those big national priorities, right?
Yes.
Targeting specific projects.
Exactly. The initial focus areas are right where the biggest needs are hitting first. Northern Virginia, obviously, for data centers. Phoenix, because of the massive TSMC semiconductor plant. Central Ohio for Intel's project. And Syracuse Play in New York for Micron. These areas need scalable training tied to specific projects like yesterday. And that 90-day clock speed lets them respond almost immediately.
So, wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for you, the listener? How does this really shift things?
Well, it fundamentally tries to change workforce training from being the sort of discretionary expense dependent on the next grant cycle, something that might be here today, gone tomorrow, into becoming a quantifiable, financeable asset, like investing in machinery. That allows for growth at the scale and speed needed for these huge projects, treating skilled labor like a guaranteed input, just like you'd guarantee concrete or steel delivery.
Yeah, and if you contrast it directly with those traditional grant-funded pilots, the difference is pretty stark.
Right.
Traditional pilots often depend on maybe one college department's budget, and they risk just stopping if a key partner leaves or funding gets cut. The SPV model, it relies on multiple guaranteed payment streams backed by contracts, and it has that ultimate safety net. The lenders step in rights to ensure the training keeps going. It's a shift from, let's say, hopeful reliance to hard operational security. Okay, so here's a final thought for you to chew on as we wrap up. If major national infrastructure chips, clean energy, data centers, now requires a guaranteed bankable pipeline of skilled workers, does this financialization of training capacity, using these SPVs and contract-based debt, does that become the new normal? The standard way we fund all future public-private skill development? And if it does, should regional workforce boards start prioritizing locking down long-term employer contracts just as much as they chase the next federal grant? That's definitely something to think about as you watch this incredibly important space evolve.